For the next 30 minutes, we are talking about car buying, leasing, the best deals for you. How do you know if you're supposed to get repairs and how are you supposed to manage all that and negotiate that? Ben Preston is here with Consumer Reports answering your questions live on air. What we want you to do is send in your text questions. The number is 336-379-5775. It's right there at the bottom of your screen. All right, Ben, we're talking about leasing versus buying. What are the pros and the cons of leasing versus buying?
Well, to start with buying, the big pro with buying is that you're building equity in the car. So you're making payments, but you own the car. So when it's time to move on to something else, you're going to have some kind of value built up when you sell the car. Whereas with leasing, you're basically just constantly making payments. You'll put down a down payment, there'll be a monthly payment, and then before you know it, the lease is up and it's time to move on to the next one. You have to put down a new down payment, more monthly payments, and you're not getting any of that money back like you would if you were buying. Of course, the advantage of leasing is that you can buy more car than you would normally be able to afford. So if your family is growing and you need to get something bigger and it's not really in the cards for a loan because the monthly payments would be too high, then you can actually get a cheaper deal with a lease. And there are also really great deals on leases if you're looking to save money on your monthly payments.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about how the finances work when it comes to a lease. I'm guessing you negotiate just like you do with buying a car.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because the MSRP is what the manufacturer suggests the price should be. The dealer is always going to be negotiable on that. Some dealers might have a higher price than MSRP, especially if the vehicle is in demand, like a Ford Bronco or something like that. Or it might be a less sought after model and you might be able to wheel and deal and get the price down a bit, and that'll change the terms of the lease. So at a dealership, just about everything is negotiable.
Speaking of that, we're looking at a graphic that was talking about like how do you get your financing? Should you come in with your own financing, like from your credit union or something beforehand?
You definitely should. Just like with getting a car loan, when you can organize your own lease either through a credit union or a website like TrueCar or something like that, and you can have a baseline to start with when you get to the dealership. Now, that doesn't mean that the dealership won't have a better deal. In all likelihood, they will, but it's good to start somewhere and not just come in not having a number to start with.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so what are the cheapest deals on leases and what do we need to know about that?
The cheapest deals on leases are typically less sought after models. So if you're looking at an SUV, one that has front wheel drive instead of all wheel drive, or if you're looking at a two-row SUV instead of a three-row SUV, or even a sedan. Sedans tend to have better deals on them if you can find them anymore.
Okay, and so there's something apparently called the money factor. So let's talk about what the money factor is when it comes to leasing a car.
Well, there are a couple of different money factors. One of them is the residual. That is calculated at the beginning of the lease, and that's how much the car will be worth when you're done with it after your 2-3 year term. That's how they calculate your payments and how much you need to put down for a down payment. And then there's an actual interest rate on the lease, and it's usually expressed as a fraction of a percentage point. And if you multiply it by 2,400, then you can actually compare it with the equivalent of a loan. So it's a good idea to sort of go back and forth and compare the loan with the lease, because you don't want to just look at your monthly payment. You want to look at what am I paying overall here? Because you can actually try to save money by seeing which one is going to give you the best deal, because maybe the dealership has better terms on the lease than it would on the loan. So you can actually save money over the long term, but you have to crunch the numbers to do that.
And I think most of the time people wouldn't think about that the lease could actually save you some money when it comes to that kind of stuff. All right, let's talk about mileage, because I know that that's a sticking point. A lot of times when people go to lease a car, that they might be over that mileage.
One of the biggest drawbacks of a lease is its inflexibility. Obviously, if you buy a car, you can drive it as much as you want. Now, the more you drive it, the less it's going to be worth. And that's why With the lease, when the dealership's going to want the car back at the end, they want to keep the mileage capped so they can make an accurate prediction of what the value is going to be at the end of the term. So if you go over on a lease, you're going to have to pay. And it's a per mile kind of thing that racks up really quick if you go over, because a lot of people drive 12, 15,000 miles in a year. So it could really come back to bite you if you go over. And the problem is that you may go into the lease at the beginning saying, "Oh, well, I don't drive that much." Well, maybe you get another job, you have to go farther, or maybe you're traveling a lot, and it could just up your annual mileage, and that could really get you.
And the only time to really negotiate the mileage is right there at the beginning before you're signing those papers.
That's right.
And when you negotiate the mileage, is there like an expectation, like should you ask for another like 1,000 miles or?
That's the thing. You have to be pretty accurate, because if you get a higher mileage limit, the lease is probably going to be more expensive. The better deals are going to be there are going to be terms in the lease that maybe you don't like, or you have to make some concessions if you want to get the best deals. And then, of course, your credit score is a big part of that. That's another part of the money factor. Your credit score, as in a loan, is really important. If you have a high credit score, if you have good credit, you're going to get the best terms on a lease.
Okay, gotcha. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to take your questions when we come back. Consumer Reports Auto Expert coming up next.